Welcome to this transformative journey. In this content, you will discover how to say goodbye to fear and anxiety through the power of healing the mind. We will explore 10 Stoic lessons that will teach you to control your emotions, distinguish what you can change, and transform every obstacle into an opportunity to grow. By the end of this experience, you will learn to manage your judgments and use reason to dismantle your fears, while developing an inner resilience that allows you to face life with courage and serenity. Prepare to transform your perspective and live a fulfilling life, free from anxiety and fear. Discover how you can turn every challenge into fuel for a healthy mind and an indomitable spirit. Lesson 1. Defeat fear, the Stoic secret. Did you know that much of your suffering is completely optional? Yes, you heard that right. Think of all those times your mind races, imagining the worst possible scenarios. An upcoming exam, a difficult conversation, uncertainty about your career future, health worries. Your head starts replaying a horror movie on loop. You feel anguish, the knot in your stomach, the tension in your shoulders. You're suffering, right? But why? The feared event most of the time hasn't even happened. And if it does, will it really be as catastrophic as your mind paints it? This is where ancient wisdom comes into play, the wisdom of the Stoics. Philosophers like Zeno of Citium, the founder of the school in ancient Athens, and his followers like Chrysippus of Soli, Panicius of Rhodes, Posidonius, and later Romans like Seneca, Epictetus, and even Emperor Marcus Aurelius, understood something fundamental about human nature and suffering. They discovered that it is not external things that disturb us, but our own opinions and judgments about them. Consider this quote from Seneca, a man who experienced both the heights of power and the constant threat of exile and death. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. What a powerful truth! We create hells in our minds over things that might never happen, or that, if they do, won't have the devastating impact we assign them. We waste our life energy, our mental peace, fighting ghosts and shadows projected by our own imagination. This anticipatory fear is a thief. It steals the joy of the present. It prevents you from enjoying what you do have here and now because you're too busy worrying about a future what if. It's as if you choose to live under a constant dark cloud, waiting for a storm that may never come. And the worst part is that the suffering you feel, the anxiety, the stress, is real. Your body reacts, your mind exhausts itself. You're paying a high price for a debt that may never be collected. Epictetus, who went from being a slave to becoming one of the most influential Stoic teachers, put it crystal clearly: it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Fear isn't the future event itself, it's your interpretation of that event, your judgment that it will be unbearable, terrible, something you can't handle. But is that true? How many times have you feared something with all your might, only to find it wasn't so bad? Or how often has what you feared simply not happened? The Stoics invite us to pause and analyze that fear. Is it rational? Is it based on real evidence or exaggerated assumptions? Ausonius Rufus, another great Stoic teacher, emphasized the importance of constant practice, of training the mind as you train the body. Part of that training involves challenging our irrational fears. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could actually happen? And if that happened, wouldn't I have the internal or external resources to handle it? As Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, penned amid military campaigns and plagues, don't let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you must with the same reason you now use for the present. The key is to bring your attention back to the only moment that truly exists, now. When your mind begins building castles of anguish in the air about the future, take a deep breath and observe it. Recognize those thoughts for what they are, just thoughts, not reality. You can't control whether it will rain tomorrow, but you can control whether you carry an umbrella or decide to get wet with a smile. You can't control whether someone criticizes you, but you can control how you react to that criticism. Cleanthes, Zeno's successor, spoke in his hymn to Zeus of accepting fate and following universal reason. Though we can't control external events, we can control our internal response, aligning it with reason and virtue. Fear drives us to react blindly from primal emotion. Stoic reason invites us to respond calmly, analytically, accepting what we can't change and taking focused action on what we can. Imagine the mental and emotional energy you'd free up if you stopped feeding these hypothetical fears. You could invest that energy in the present, working on your projects, enjoying your relationships, learning something new, taking care of yourself. Instead of living shrunken by anticipation of future pain, you could live expanded in the experience of the current moment. This isn't about being reckless or failing to plan. It's about differentiating between reasonable preparation and paralyzing worry. Plan what you can, take sensible precautions, but once you've done that, release the need to control the final outcome. Trust in your ability to handle whatever comes, because as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the tools of reason you have today will still be there tomorrow. Next time you feel the sting of fear over something that might happen, remember Seneca's words, "What's the use of anticipating sorrow? You'll suffer misfortune when it arrives." Befriend the present. Recognize the strength you already possess to face real challenges when they arise. Stop suffering over ghosts. Because, as Epictetus said, the source of your anguish isn't out there in the world, it's within, in your judgments. And that, fortunately, is within your power to change. As Marcus Aurelius reflected to find his own strength, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The real battlefield, the true opportunity to defeat fear, lies in your own perception. Lesson 2. Your mind, the key to your emotions. What if nothing that happens to you is inherently good or bad? Think about it for a second. Stuck in traffic, receiving criticism at work, someone cancels plans last minute. Your immediate reaction is usually frustration, anger, disappointment, right? We feel these emotions as if they're a direct, inevitable consequence of what just happened. But what if the traffic, the criticism, the cancellation are neutral? They're just facts, points on the map of reality. They have no emotional color until you, with your mind, pick up the brush and paint them. This idea is one of the most revolutionary and liberating pillars of Stoic thought, a practical philosophy for life developed by giants like Zeno of Citium, Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. They realized something incredibly powerful. What disturbs us, what causes anxiety, fear, or anger, isn't external events, but the interpretations, judgments, and opinions we form about those events. Epictetus, who endured the harshness of slavery before becoming a beacon of wisdom, summarized it masterfully. It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Boom. There's the key. The event is A. Your emotional reaction is C. But there's always an intermediate step B, your judgment about A. And it's this step B, your interpretation, that truly determines C, your emotion. Imagine that criticism at work. The fact, your boss points out an error in your report. Neutral. Now your judgment, step B, I'm incompetent, they'll fire me, I failed. The result, step C? Anxiety, shame, fear. But what if your judgment were different? Okay, a mistake. A chance to learn and improve. I'm grateful they pointed it out so I don't repeat it. This doesn't define my entire worth. The emotional result? Likely closer to acceptance, motivation, or even gratitude for the feedback. The external event, criticism, didn't change, but by changing your internal judgment, your emotional experience transforms completely. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, constantly reflected on this in his Meditations, written as a personal guide amid the chaos of empire and war. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your own estimate of it. In this you have the power to revoke at any moment." You have the power. What a potent concept. We aren't puppets at the mercy of external circumstances. We have the ability to choose how we interpret what happens to us. Most things that occur are inherently neutral. Rain isn't bad, it's just water falling. It's bad if you had a picnic planned, your negative judgment, but fantastic for farmers, their positive judgment. Missing a bus isn't a universal catastrophe, it's simply not arriving on time. Your judgment, this is a disaster. I'll be so late, creates stress. Another judgment, well, I'll walk or read while waiting for the next one, generates a different emotion. The Stoics, from Zeno, who founded the school in Athens, to Chrysippus, who solidified its logic, to Musonius Rufus, who insisted on daily practical application, understood that much of our suffering comes from automatic, often negative judgments. We've grown accustomed to reacting without thinking, instantly labeling things as good or bad, threatening or safe. But this automatic reaction isn't mandatory. As Musonius Rufus taught, we must practice philosophy daily, which includes constantly examining our impressions and judgments. Seneca, navigating the turbulent waters of Roman politics under emperors like Nero, also explored this idea. Though often quoted for saying we suffer more in imagination than in reality, that anticipatory suffering also stems from negative judgments about a future that doesn't yet exist. Even in the present, our judgments magnify pain. He understood that serenity comes not from changing the external world, but from mastering our inner world, our judgments and desires. So how do we apply this daily? It's not about denying emotions or pretending nothing affects us. It's about cultivating awareness. When you notice a strong emotion, anger, fear, sadness, pause. Ask, what exactly happened? The neutral fact, what am I thinking about this? Your judgment. Is this judgment the only way to view the situation? Is it absolutely true? Is there another perspective, perhaps a more useful or constructive one? This process of questioning automatic thoughts is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you see that the terrifying monster was just a shadow cast by a coat on a chair. By changing your judgment, the emotion loses its power over you. The event doesn't change, but your relationship with it does. And that changes everything. Philosophers like Panaetius and Posidonius were crucial in bringing Stoicism to the Roman world, adapting it to show its practical value for daily life, not just abstract theory. They understood that managing judgments was an essential skill for the good life, for eudaimonia, or human flourishing. You reclaim your agency, your inner power. You're no longer a leaf blown by the wind of circumstances, but a tree with deep roots, standing firm, yet flexible, regardless of external weather. You begin to realize that your inner peace doesn't depend on things going right, but on your ability to interpret and respond to whatever happens with wisdom and equanimity. Next time you face a tough situation, remember Epictetus' wisdom. It's not the situation, but your opinion about it. Pause, breathe, examine your judgment. Can you choose a different one? One that serves you better, bringing more peace and less suffering? This constant practice is the Stoic path to resilience and tranquility. As Marcus Aurelio concluded after a lifetime of reflection, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And the quality of your thoughts, how you judge the world, is ultimately under your control. Lesson 3. Your inner strength. The Stoic key. What if almost nothing out there can truly harm you? Sounds crazy, right? Because we feel the blow of bad news, the frustration of a derailed plan, the pain of loss. External things seem to hold immense power over us. But the Stoics, practical sages like Zeno, Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, offer a radically different perspective. They tell us, your true home, the only ground where you truly reside and have power, is your own mind. What happens externally affects you only to the extent you open the door and let it in. This is one of the most fundamental and transformative Stoic ideas. The clear distinction between what's within our control, the internal, and what's not, the external. Epictetus, who knew the extremes of external unfreedom as a slave, put it with crystal clarity. Some things are within our control and others are not. What's within our control? Our opinions, intentions, desires, aversions, in short, everything that's a direct product of our mind, our internal actions. What's not? Our body, its ultimate health or appearance, possessions, reputation, what others think, positions we hold. Essentially, anything not a direct act of our will. Why is this distinction so crucial? Because most of our suffering, anxiety, and frustration comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. We stubbornly try to change the weather, others' opinions, global economic decisions, the past, and crash repeatedly against reality. We expend immense energy fighting unwinnable battles outside ourselves, neglecting the only battlefield where we can truly win, our inner world. Your mind, your judgments, your choices, that's your true domain. There lies your capacity to find peace, resilience, virtue, regardless of external events. Think of your mind as an inner citadel. Storms may rage outside, noise, chaos, even attacks. But if your citadel's walls are strong, if you choose not to open the gates to panic or despair, you remain safe at your center. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself amid the pressures of ruling an empire, saw it this way: nowhere can a person find a more peaceful and untroubled retreat than in their own soul. Your soul, your mind, your inner command center. That's the place you can always retreat to for clarity and calm. The external world is like the scenery of a play. It may change, be pleasant or unpleasant, but you are the lead actor, and your performance, your internal responses, depends on you, not the scenery. Seneca, ever practical and direct, also stressed this idea. He claimed, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach, not in accumulating external wealth, fame, or even perfect health, all vulnerable and perishable. True wealth, true strength, lies in cultivating our reason, virtue, and ability to choose wise responses to life's offerings." He'd say that if external events overwhelm you, it's because you've never truly known yourself, your inner strength. So how do we live this practically? It's about constant attention training. In any situation, especially distressing ones, ask the key question: what part of this is within my control and what isn't? If stuck in traffic, external, beyond your control, does raging and honking help? No. What is within your control? How you use that time, listen to something, reflect, breathe, your judgment of the situation. This sucks versus an unexpected pause, your emotional reaction. If someone criticizes you, external, their action, do their words define or hurt you? No, that depends on your interpretation and whether you grant power to that external opinion, internal, your choice. Musonius Rufus, Epictetus' teacher, emphasized that philosophy wasn't just theory but daily practice. Living this internal/external distinction is a constant exercise. It requires pausing autopilot reactions and applying reason. If something is beyond your control, the Stoic path is acceptance, not passive resignation, but serene recognition of reality or reasoned indifference, acknowledging it doesn't affect your capacity for virtue. If something is within your control, your thoughts, actions, that's where to focus all effort and wisdom. Zeno, in founding the school, placed reason as the supreme guide. Chrysippus' logic helps analyze what falls into each category. Cleanthes, with his vision of an ordered cosmos, logos, reinforced accepting the external order we can't control. Later, Panicius and Posidonius showed how this attitude leads to a fuller, respected life. Focus energy where it truly makes a difference, your character and choices. Understanding and living this internal/external separation unlocks incredible freedom. Freedom independent of circumstances, anchored in your mind. You discover your well-being isn't at the mercy of fate's whims or others' actions. It's anchored in your ability to choose, judge, and act virtuously from your inner citadel. True healing, true growth always starts from within. Next time the external world shakes you, remember where you truly reside. Not in the chaotic event, but in your response to it. Take refuge in your soul, as Marcus Aurelius advised. Strengthen your inner walls with reason, acceptance, and conscious choice. Because your mind isn't just where you live. It's the only place over which you have real, lasting power. And that power, wisely used, is enough. Lesson 4. Use reason, your weapon against fear. Did you know you can argue with your fear and win? And I don't mean yelling at it or stubbornly ignoring it. I mean sitting down with it, looking it in the eye, and using your most powerful weapon to dismantle it piece by piece, your capacity to reason. Because much of what scares us, what generates paralyzing anxiety, feeds on irrational beliefs, mental ghosts that crumble under cold, logical analysis. The Stoics, from founder Zeno of Citium to Emperor Marcus Aurelius, through brilliant logicians like Chrysippus and practical teachers like Epictetus and Seneca, understood that reason, logos, is our fundamental guide. This is what sets us apart and lets us navigate the world wisely. One of its most crucial roles is precisely to act as a filter, an internal detective that examines our own emotions, especially fear, to separate the real from the imaginary, the probable from the exaggerated. Imagine a common fear, public speaking. The mind starts projecting, I'll make a fool of myself, everyone will laugh, I'll blank out, my career will be ruined. Your heart races, your palms sweat. The fear feels real, but is its content rational? This is where the logical argument comes in. The Stoics invite us to take that fear and put it under the microscope of reason. Ask yourself, like a lawyer cross-examining an unreliable witness, what exactly am I afraid of? Embarrassment. What's the actual likelihood of that happening? How often have you seen someone universally ridiculed in a normal presentation? Rarely. If the worst I imagine happens, blanking out, what would the real, lasting consequences be? An awkward moment, perhaps, but the end of the world? The end of my career? Highly unlikely. What evidence do I have that I'm incapable of doing this? Have I spoken before? Have I prepared? What resources do I have to handle it? My preparation notes the ability to take deep breaths, the fact that most people are understanding. Are there other ways to interpret the situation? It's an opportunity to share ideas, practice, connect. This process of rational interrogation is essential. Marcus Aurelius, facing immense challenges, constantly reminded himself of the importance of evaluating his own impressions. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your own estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. How do you revoke that painful or fearful judgment? By applying reason to see if it holds up. Most of the time, the judgments fueling fear don't. Chrysippus, who wrote hundreds of books on Stoic logic, though most were sadly lost, laid the groundwork for this rigorous analysis. He understood that our emotions arise from our judgments, and if those judgments are flawed or illogical, our emotions become disturbing and irrational. Logic wasn't an academic game to him. It was a vital tool for soul therapy, untangling the mental knots causing our anguish. When you apply logic to your fear, you do several things. First, you objectify it. You drag it out of the shadowy realm of raw emotion and place it under the bright light of analysis. Second, you deflate it. By questioning the actual probability and exaggerated consequences, you let the air out of that inflated panic balloon. Third, you empower yourself. You realize you're not a passive victim of your fears, but an active agent capable of using reason to manage them. Seneca, in his writings on anger, tranquility, and the brevity of life, constantly applied this principle. He advocated for reflection, stepping back from immediate emotion to allow reason to intervene. Though he spoke of anger, the principle is identical for fear. The best remedy for anger is delay. That delay lets reason do its job, analyzing the situation coolly rather than reacting impulsively from fear or fury. Practicing this rationalization of fears doesn't mean you'll never feel fear. It means you don't have to be ruled by it. You can feel the initial emotion, but then choose to activate your reasoning capacity to evaluate it. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not disturb yourself by thinking of the whole of your life. Do not let your thoughts at once embrace all the various troubles which may befall you. But on every occasion ask yourself, what is there in this which is intolerable and past bearing? Trust that rational capacity you possess right now is the same one you'll have when and if what you fear arrives." Musonius Rufus, Epictetus' teacher, would insist on practicing this constantly. It's not a one-time fix. It's a mental habit to cultivate. Every time an irrational fear arises, It's an opportunity to train your rational muscle. Over time, you become more skilled at detecting the logical fallacies behind your anxieties and responding with calm clarity. Later Stoics like Pinicius and Posidonius, who connected Stoicism to Roman culture, highlighted how this rational self-management not only brings inner peace, but also makes us more effective, serene citizens. And Cleanthes' vision of a universe governed by logos, divine reason, reminds us that our own reason is a spark of that same force, capable of aligning our thoughts with reality and dispelling the fog of irrational fear. So next time fear knocks at your door, invite it in, but seat it in the interrogation chair. Use logical questions, seek evidence, challenge its exaggerations, debate it with the quiet force of reason. It might not vanish instantly, but you'll strip it of its tyrannical power over you. You'll prove who's in charge of your inner house. Because as the Stoics taught, and as Epictetus summarized so well, it's not events that dominate us, but how we choose rationally to respond to them. Your reason is your shield and sword against the dragons of anxiety. Use it. Lesson 5. The view from the summit. Master your emotions. What if you could float above your own fear or anxiety? Imagine being able to observe your turbulent emotions not from within the whirlwind, but from a calm, elevated place with clarity and perspective. It's not magic, it's a powerful mental skill the Stoics, those masters of inner serenity like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, cultivated and taught. They understood that while we can't always choose which emotions arise, we can choose how to relate to them. Typically, when a strong emotion like fear or anxiety hits, we fully identify with it. We say, "I'm furious" or "I'm terrified." We become the emotion and it takes control, dictating our thoughts and actions, often leading us into dark places and regrettable decisions. We drown in the wave. But here's the Stoic revelation echoing Marcus Aurelius' meditations: you are not your emotion, you are the observer who can choose not to feed it. How liberating! You're not the storm cloud, you're the vast blue sky in which the cloud appears and eventually dissolves. There's a part of you, your rational command center, what Epictetus called your governing faculty, that can step back and simply observe the emotion without merging with it. Epictetus warned, don't be swept away by appearances. Take your time, pause. That pause creates the space for the observer to emerge. Once you realize you're the observer, you understand what not feeding the emotion means. It means not adding fuel to the fire with catastrophic thoughts. This is unbearable. It means not reacting impulsively under its influence, screaming in fear, fleeing a challenge. It means simply acknowledging its presence. Here's fear again, without granting it undue power, treating it as a temporary visitor in your mind, not the landlord. To cultivate this detached observation, the Stoics offer practical tools. One powerful technique is the view from above, veritas ex alto. Next time fear or anxiety surges, try this. Close your eyes and visualize ascending a tall, serene mountain. Rise above the trees, above the low clouds. The air is crisp and clear. From the summit, look down at the situation troubling you in the valley. See your lower self there, gripped by intense emotion. From this summit of reason, things look different, don't they? Problems that seemed massive below now appear smaller, manageable, part of a much broader landscape. The intense emotion enveloping you now looks like a passing cloud in the valley, not the entire weather system. Stay up there a moment, breathing in the high-altitude calm. Now, from this wise, tranquil perspective, ask, what would a wiser version of me see here? Not the scared, anxious you below, but this elevated self connected to your deepest reason. What advice would you give yourself? What forgotten perspective would you reclaim? What inner strength would you remember you possess? Maybe you'd see the situation isn't as threatening as it seemed, that there are options you hadn't considered, that the emotion will pass, or that acting with virtue despite the emotion is what matters. This is the veritas ex alto, the truth that emerges when we rise above immediate emotional chaos. Marcus Aurelius often adopted this cosmic view in his reflections, contemplating human affairs from great heights as if watching stars in their eternal courses. He wrote, "Nowhere can a person find a more peaceful and untroubled retreat than in their own soul." That tranquil soul is the mountain summit, the seat of the rational observer. It's a place always accessible within you, no matter how stormy the valley. Seneca also spoke of achieving this serenity. He said, "The wise man is not disturbed by difficulties." Why? Not because hard things don't happen to him, but because he's trained his mind to observe them from that rational, detached perspective, refusing to let them hijack his inner peace. He's learned to take refuge in his inner citadel, the summit of his own reason. Zeno, the school's founder, placed reason as the supreme guide. Chrysippus' logic helps analyze what we see from the summit. Ausonius Rufus' insistence on practice reminds us that climbing that mental mountain is a daily exercise. Cleanthes' vision of the universal logos connects us to a broader, ordered perspective. And Panicius and Posidonius showed how the skill is key to a functional, fulfilling life. Practicing this summit observation doesn't turn you into an emotionless robot. It makes you someone with a healthier, more conscious relationship with your emotions. You learn to navigate the waves instead of drowning in them. You acknowledge the emotion, honor it as a signal if needed, but don't let it steer your life's course. The helm stays with your observing self, your serene reason atop the mountain. Remember, you have emotions, thoughts, sensations, but you are the awareness experiencing them, the space in which they arise and pass. By cultivating that observing awareness, that calm witness, you tap into an inexhaustible well of peace and wisdom. As Epictetus put it, first understand what you feel and why, from reasons calm, then choose how to respond. That's true inner freedom. That's the view from the summit. Lesson 6. Obstacles, your best stoic fuel. What if what blocks your path is the path? It sounds like a riddle, doesn't it? When you hit a wall, a work problem, a personal struggle, an unexpected setback, your instinct is frustration, wanting to turn back, cursing the obstacle. But what if that wall wasn't there to stop you, but to redirect you, teach you something, make you stronger? This is one of the most powerful, transformative ideas in Stoicism, a philosophy forged by people who faced exile, war, loss, and illness, and found ways not just to survive, but to grow through those trials. Stoics like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius invite us to a radical shift in perspective. Instead of seeing obstacles as curses or system errors, they propose viewing them as opportunities. Opportunities to practice virtue, exercise resilience, and discover strengths we never knew we had. As Seneca, a man who knew both power's heights and exile's bitterness, said, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests the strong." Difficulties aren't there to destroy us, but to reveal what we're made of, to polish our character. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his personal journal amid military campaigns and a devastating plague, put it in what's become a Stoic mantra: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Well, think about that. The obstacle itself contains the seed of solution or growth. The resistance you meet is precisely what forces you to dig deeper, get creative, and develop new mental or emotional muscles. How does this work practically? Imagine losing your job. The initial reaction is fear, panic. What now? The Stoic approach invites you to look deeper. Is this an opportunity to reassess your career? Learn new skills? Demonstrate adaptability and problem solving? Strengthen resilience in uncertainty? The external event, job loss, doesn't change, but how you frame and fuel it can. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become a revered teacher, knew immense obstacles firsthand. He taught that every difficulty is an invitation to look inward and mobilize our inner resources. He said something like, "The trials we endure can and must introduce us to our own strengths. We don't know what we're capable of until life tests us." The obstacle isn't an enemy, it's a sparring partner, a tough coach helping us improve our game in the art of living. It's the raw material we work with, like wood to a carpenter. To make this tangible, here's a Stoic-inspired exercise you can call your obstacle journal. Identify the obstacle, grab paper and pen, or open a digital note. Describe the challenge you're facing as objectively as possible. No drama, just facts. What's actually happening? Find the fuel, reflect, and write at least one specific way this obstacle, however tough it seems now, could strengthen you or teach something valuable long-term. Does it force patience? Courage? Organization? Asking for help? Redefining priorities? Be concrete. Define an action today. Decide one small, manageable step you can take today to start tackling the obstacle or extracting its lesson. It doesn't have to solve everything, just the first move. Send an email? Make a call? Spend 15 minutes researching? Practice patience in a minor situation? Write it down and commit. Doing this regularly transforms your relationship with difficulties. You stop being a passive victim of circumstances and become an active agent using everything that happens, good or bad, as raw material for growth. As Seneca insisted, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. We don't avoid the gym because weights are heavy. We know that effort makes us stronger. It's the same with life's obstacles. This perspective was central to the entire Stoic school. From Zeno, who taught that virtue is the only true good, making external obstacles irrelevant to true happiness, to Chrysippus, whose logic helps analyze obstacles and plan responses. Ausonius Rufus emphasized constantly facing hardships without complaint. Cleanthes saw obstacles as part of the universe's rational order to accept and work with. And Panetius and Posidonius showed how this resilient attitude led to fuller, respected lives. It's mental alchemy, turning adversity's lead into wisdom's gold. It's swapping why me for what? What can I learn? How can I use this? This shift changes everything. It moves you from the victim's back seat to the driver's seat of your response. So next time you face a pebble in your shoe, a wall on your path, remember this Stoic lesson. Recall Seneca's words about gold and fire. Remember Marcus Aurelius's vision that the obstacle is the way. Pull out your obstacle journal, analyze the situation with a cool head, seek the hidden opportunity, and define your next step no matter how small. Because obstacles aren't the end of the road, they're the road itself calling you to become the strongest, wisest, most resilient version of yourself. They're fuel waiting for you to light the spark. Lesson 7. Voluntary discomfort, your mental gym. Did you know you can vaccinate yourself against fear and weakness with small doses of discomfort? Sounds strange, right? We live in an era that chases comfort at all costs. Perfect air conditioning, delicious food instantly available, endless entertainment to avoid boredom. We flee from any little friction. But the Stoics, those sages of inner strength like Seneca, Epictetus, Ausonius Rufus, or the legendary Cato the Younger, discovered a counterintuitive secret. Deliberately seeking small doses of discomfort is one of the best workouts for the mind and spirit. This isn't masochism, but a brilliant strategy to build bulletproof resilience. Think of it as a mental gym. If you never lift weights, your muscles atrophy. If you never expose your mind to a bit of controlled stress or difficulty, it becomes soft, fragile, and terrified when life, as it inevitably will, throws you a real, unexpected challenge. We become slaves to comfort, and the fear of losing it or facing discomfort starts dictating our lives. The Stoics practiced what they called practicing adversity. Seneca, for example, explicitly recommended in his letters to Lucilius, set aside a certain number of days during which you'll be content with the scantiest and cheapest food, with rough and coarse clothing, saying to yourself the whole time, "Is this the condition I feared?" How powerful! It's not about living in misery forever, but voluntarily experiencing a bit of it to strip fear of loss or hardship of its power. It's touching the monster to realize it's not as terrifying as your imagination painted it. How does this discomfort vaccine work? In several ways. Desensitizes fear by exposing yourself to small things that make you slightly fearful or uneasy, like a cold shower in the morning, talking to a stranger, or eating something very basic for a day. You prove to your brain you can handle it. Anticipation is usually worse than reality. You reduce fear of the unknown and actual hardship. Builds mental toughness, resilience. Every time you choose to do something slightly uncomfortable over the easy option, you're doing a rep in your mental gym. You're strengthening your willpower muscle, your ability to tolerate frustration and persevere. Increases gratitude. When you return to your usual comfort after a small dose of voluntary discomfort, warmth after cold, tasty food after plain, you appreciate it far more. It vaccinates you against taking things for granted. Test your capacity. You send a clear message to your subconscious, "I can handle this." You break the limiting belief that you're fragile or incapable of enduring adversity. expands your comfort zone. What once seemed uncomfortable or intimidating starts feeling normal with practice. Your world grows bigger because fewer things scare or hold you back. Epictetus, who understood the difference between what we control, our choices, and what we don't, external circumstances, knew this training was key. That we can't choose all our circumstances, we can choose to strengthen our response to them. Facing voluntary trials prepares us for involuntary ones. Like an athlete who trains hard, they don't choose competition day's conditions but prepare to perform well regardless. We, as athletes of life, can train our minds similarly. As he suggested, challenges reveal hidden strengths. Choosing small challenges lets us proactively discover them. What discomfort doses can you try? Start small and safe. The famous cold shower. End your warm shower with 30 seconds or a minute of the coldest water you can tolerate. Initial shock, but the sense of accomplishment afterward is huge. Delay gratification. Wait 15 minutes before checking your phone in the morning. Don't eat that dessert immediately, wait a bit. Practice tiny self-control acts. Do something mildly socially anxious. Ask a question in a meeting even if you're embarrassed. Greet a neighbor you don't usually talk to. Give a stranger a small compliment. Say no kindly. When you mean no, we often say yes to avoid disappointing others or conflict. Practice setting healthy boundaries. Choose the slightly harder option. Take stairs instead of the elevator. Walk or bike instead of driving short distances. Carry bags instead of using a cart. Embrace silence. Spend time without music, podcasts, or background noise. Just be with yourself. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of the need for self-discipline and accepting difficulties without complaint. By practicing voluntary discomfort, you cultivate that discipline and realize, as he said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. These small acts will help you realize that power. This practice has deep roots in Stoicism. Zeno of Citium prioritized reason over pleasure. Cato the Younger was legendary for his austere practices to strengthen character. Ausonius Rufus taught that body and soul must be trained together, often through physical endurance. Cleides, Panicius, Posidonius all understood in their own ways that virtue is forged in practice, often through chosen or accepted difficulty. The ultimate goal isn't suffering but liberation. Liberation from fear of discomfort. Liberation from the tyranny of instant comfort cravings. Liberation to choose actions based on values and reason, not avoiding every minor hassle. You become tougher, more adaptable, freer. So choose your small discomfort dose today. Something that nudges you just a bit out of your comfort zone. Start your training in the Stoic mental gym. Remember, as Epictetus put it, no man is free who isn't master of himself. Self-mastery is built largely by learning to voluntarily embrace what we'd rather avoid. That's the key to unshakable inner strength. Lesson 8. Daily resilience. Cultivate your inner strength. What if your greatest strength were built daily, in silence? I'm not talking about lifting weights in a quiet gym, but something far more intimate and powerful. The deliberate cultivation of your inner world through quiet, consistent practices like reflection and mindfulness, Stoic style. In a world that shouts, demands constant action, and instant results, Stoic sages like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca taught that true resilience, the ability not just to endure life's blows but to recover, learn, and grow from them, is forged in the stillness of self-examination and the calm of a trained mind. Resilience isn't being stone-cold or unfeeling. It's being like bamboo, flexible yet incredibly strong, bending in the storm without breaking and bouncing back. It's the skill to maintain inner balance, peace, and rational action, even when the outer world seems chaotic. And this skill, the Stoics say, isn't innate. It's cultivated day by day, with patience and inner discipline. The Stoics were pioneers of introspection. Long before modern trends, they understood the importance of self-knowledge, examining thoughts, judgments, and reactions. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, left us his Meditations, a personal journal and testament to this reflective practice. He didn't write to publish, but to remind himself of Stoic principles. review his actions, and strengthen his character. He urges, dig within. Within is the wellspring of good. It will ever rise if you keep digging. That daily digging is reflective practice. How do these quiet practices build unshakable strength? Daily reflection. Imagine ending your day with just 5 to 10 minutes reviewing what happened. Not to self-blame, but to learn. Epictetus recommended a practice inspired by the Pythagoreans. Each night, ask, where did I err? What did I do well? What duty did I neglect? This simple exercise helps identify negative thought patterns, recognize impulsive reactions, celebrate small character victories, and adjust course for tomorrow. It brings incredible clarity about yourself and how you live your values. Mindfulness, Stoic style, Persoke. This isn't necessarily sitting lotus style, though it helps, but cultivating steady, calm attention to thoughts, emotions, and actions in the present. Notice when your mind wanders into useless worries or negative judgments, then gently bring it back. Observe emotions without being swept away, as we saw with the view from the summit. This constant attention trains focus, calms your nervous system, and gives greater control over impulsive responses. These practices, sustained over time, have a profound healing effect. Think of your mind as a garden. Reflection and mindfulness are like weeding negative thoughts, flawed judgments, and watering good plants. Reason, virtue, calm. Day by day, unnoticed at first, the garden grows stronger, tidier, more beautiful. Mental wounds, accumulated stress, old anguishes, recent frustrations get processed and healed instead of festering in unconscious darkness. You reduce mental noise and strengthen your rational command center. Seneca, in his writings on tranquility, emphasized that true peace comes from within, from the self-sufficiency of virtue and reason. He reminded us, the greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. Stoic reflection and meditation are tools to access those blessings, cultivating inner peace independent of external circumstances. How to start simply today. Nightly review, 5 minutes before bed. Ask Epictetus 3 questions. What did I do wrong today, by my values? What did I do right? What important duty did I neglect? No judgment, just learn. Morning intention, 1 minute upon waking. Briefly think of a Stoic principle to focus on today. Today I'll focus on what I control. Today I'll respond calmly. Today I'll act justly. Mindfulness pauses. Throughout the day, stop for 30 seconds. Notice your breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Observe your current mental state without judgment. Return to your task with renewed presence. Other great Stoics reinforced these ideas. Zeno prioritized reason and virtue, cultivated through self-observation. Chrysippus' logic helps analyze thoughts uncovered in reflection. Musonius Rufus insisted philosophy must be lived daily. Pinesius and Posidonius showed how this inner strength is key to contributing positively to society. Even Cleanthes's vision of an ordered cosmos can be a contemplation focus, helping us find our place and perspective. Remember, this isn't a quick fix. This patient cultivation. Resilience doesn't appear overnight. It's the accumulated result of showing up daily to these quiet practices. It's strengthening your inner core so when storms come, and they will, you have deep roots and flexibility to not just endure but learn and grow stronger. Start today. Choose one small practice. Spend minutes digging into that inner wellspring of good. Because your greatest strength, that unshakable calm and resilience, is built there, in the fertile silence of your own mind, day by day. As Marcus Aurelius said, keep digging. Lesson 9. Serve others. Your Stoic antidote to fear. What if the best way to calm your inner storm were to help someone else navigate theirs? Seems crazy, right? When trapped in anxiety or fear, our instinct is to withdraw, obsess over our own sensations, problems, me, me, me. The world shrinks to fit our worried heads. But the Stoics, those master practical psychologists of antiquity, offer a surprising, deeply human escape, turning our attention outward towards service. They discovered helping others is a powerful antidote to fear's poison and ego's tyranny. Think how you feel when anxious or scared. Your mind is a whirlwind of what-ifs, self-centered worries. What will happen to me? How do I feel? What will they think of me? It's exhausting and often worsens things. As Seneca suggested, it's like being lost in the labyrinth of your mind. The way out, Stoic wisdom says, is helping another navigator lost in their own maze. By focusing on another's need, you somehow find your own course. This idea isn't a mental trick. It's rooted in Stoic social philosophy. Philosophers like Zeno, Chrysippus, Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius understood humans are fundamentally social. We're not islands. We're part of a community, humanity, even the cosmos. We share oikiosis, a natural affinity with others. Thus, acting for the common good isn't just nice. It aligns with our essential nature. Marcus Aurelius put it brilliantly. What's bad for the hive is bad for the bee. We're interdependent. Our well-being ties to others. More directly, humans exist for each other. Teach them, then, or bear with them. Serving others within our capacity is part of our worldly role. How does service act as a fear antidote? Shifts focus. Instantaneous. When genuinely focused on helping, your mind stops obsessing over your worries. Just changing your mental TV channel provides perspective. Connecting with others' problems often reframes your own. Maybe they weren't so catastrophic. Helps you relativize and appreciate what you have. Generates positive emotions. Helping triggers connection, purpose, and self-efficacy. Feeling useful counteracts helplessness and hopelessness. Brain chemistry works for you. Reduces ego. Fear fixates on me, my safety, image, future. Service shifts focus to you or us, shrinking the fearful ego. Reinforces agency. Reminds you that even when feeling bad, you can act and impact the world positively. Breaks anxiety's paralysis. Seneca, immensely wealthy yet deeply reflective on virtue, reminded us, wherever there's a human being, there's an opportunity for kindness. No grand gestures needed. Service opportunities are everywhere in daily interactions. Here's a practical Stoic tool for anxiety attacks. Perform a small, anonymous act of service. Why anonymous? To keep intention pure. Helping, not seeking recognition, which feeds ego. Ideas. Send an encouraging message to someone struggling, anonymously if desired. Make a small anonymous donation to a cause you care about. Pick up trash you see on the street. Leave a positive note. Have a great day or a quote. In a public spot. Discreetly help someone needing practical aid. Carrying something. Directions. The key. Keep it small, doable now, and redirect mental energy outward. Epictetus, ever focused on virtuous action, urged, first decide who you want to be, then do what you must do. Part of our duty as rational social beings is mutual contribution. These service acts embody that philosophy. All great Stoics supported this social vision. Zeno spoke of cosmopolitanism. Chrysippus detailed social duties. Musonius Rufus taught practical ethics. Panetius and Posidonius adapted it for Roman civic life. Cleanthes saw humanity under divine logos. Fear isolates. It traps you in your mind's prison. Service connects. It frees you, reminding you're part of something greater. a mutual support network. That connection is healing and foundational to resilience. Next time fear grips you, try this Stoic antidote. Step out of your head and do something, however small and anonymous, for someone else. Notice what happens inside. You might find that calming another storm unexpectedly quiets your own. As the Stoics taught, we exist for each other, and in that mutual service, we often find our own salvation. Lesson 10. Live with virtue, your unbreakable Stoic strength. What if the ultimate cure for anxiety wasn't feeling better but acting better? I know it sounds odd. We seek relief, calm, feeling good. But the Stoics, masters of inner fortitude, propose a radically different, long-term, powerful approach. They say lasting mental peace and resilience lie not in chasing pleasure or avoiding pain, but in focusing on living with virtue, human excellence. Acting rightly with integrity is the ultimate source of solid self-esteem and purpose, making you nearly immune to external chaos. What is this virtue arrayed in Greek? For Stoics like Zeno, Cleanthes, Chrysippus, Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, it's the only true good. Not health, wealth, fame, or even pain's absence, those are indifference. The only essential is our character and actions quality. Virtue is living by reason, our highest human capacity, and our social nature. They distilled it into 4 pillars. Wisdom, prudence, not just smarts. Clarity to see what's truly good, virtue, bad, vice, and indifferent. Discerning and making right life decisions, a moral and intellectual compass. Justice, acting fairly, honestly, and with integrity toward others. Recognizing our connection and duties to humanity. Treating others as we'd want, seeking common good. Courage, fortitude, key for fear. Not fearlessness, but facing danger, pain, or intimidation with rationality and resolve. Doing right despite fear. Defending principles. Mental and moral endurance. Temperance, moderation, self-control. Managing desires and impulses, including anxious or fearful ones. Avoiding excess, seeking balance, maintaining serenity amid temptation. How does living by these virtues protect and strengthen you? Unshakable purpose. Your main goal isn't feeling good, volatile, externals dependent, but being good and acting well. This internal, self-dependent purpose gives deep life meaning. Solid self-esteem. Your worth doesn't hinge on external success, applause, or momentary happiness. It's based on striving to act with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Character-based self-esteem is far stabler than external validation. A beacon in fog. When lost, scared, or confused, virtues guide action. What's wise/just/courageous/moderate here? They orient you even when emotions cloud judgment. Attacks fear's roots. Much anxiety stems from fearing loss of indifference, health, money, status, comfort. If your highest good is virtue, unassailable, fear of losing those diminishes drastically. Courage is direct antidote. Fear screams, run, freeze. Courage, guided by wisdom, says, assess risks rationally and act on principles even if afraid. Each courageous act weakens fear's grip. This idea that virtue is the only good and sufficient for happiness is Stoicism's cornerstone. The Stoics sought not an easy life but an excellent one. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private notes, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Action matters." Seneca, reflecting on boldness, said, "It's not because things are difficult that we dare not, it's because we dare not that they are difficult." Courageous action dissolves perceived obstacles. How to apply this daily? Aim for progress, not perfection. Reflect on virtues. Regularly ask, how can I apply wisdom here? Am I being just? Where do I need courage? What requires temperance? Focus on action. When anxious, ask, what's the virtuous action here? Acting with integrity, even uncomfortably, brings deeper peace than fleeting relief. See challenges as training. Every difficulty is a gym for virtues. Fear trains courage. Temptation trains temperance. Conflict trains justice and wisdom. All Stoic masters lived this. Zeno, Cleanthes, Chrysippus, Musonius Rufus, Epictetus. They built inner fortresses through virtue, unshakable even in life's storms. This approach grants dignity no external event can strip, knowing you strive to live nobly, aligned with your deepest values. That conviction that lived integrity is the strongest bulwark against anxiety and existential fear. So yes, seek relief, but aim higher. Aspire to act better. Cultivate wisdom, justice, temperance, and above all, when fear strikes, courage. For as Stoicism teaches, a virtuous life isn't just the path to resilience, it's the destination. It's the unshakable foundation for true inner peace. Thank you for joining this transformative journey. If these lessons inspired you to face fear and anxiety with new perspective, share your experience in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like to keep receiving content that helps heal your mind and live more fully. Your participation fuels our mutual growth.